So, how in the world do we get our students ready for a world that is just overflowing with information? It's probably one of the biggest questions we're all wrestling with in education today. And the answer? It isn't about memorizing more facts, it's about a totally new way of thinking. In this explainer, we're going to break down a really powerful framework designed to do exactly that, the knowledge construction rubric.
All right, let's just start with a big foundational question. Think about it. Are our schools, our teaching methods, are they really built for the world our students are living in right now? Or are we, in a lot of ways, still kind of running on a model from a long, long time ago? To really get a picture of this challenge, just look at this number, 500. What is that? That's how many hours of video get uploaded to YouTube every single minute. Our students are swimming in this constant, overwhelming sea of information. In an environment like this, just being able to remember and spit back facts, that's just not going to cut it anymore. And this really gets to the heart of the issue, right? So much of our education system was built for the industrial age. It was an era that valued doing the same thing over and over, kind of like a factory assembly line. But knowledge today isn't some static thing you memorize. It's alive, it's dynamic, it's changing all the time. And that makes that old model, well, obsolete.
So that brings us to why we so urgently need a new game plan. And it's not just about, throwing some new tech in the classroom. It's about fundamentally changing what we ask our students to do with all this information they have at their fingertips.
The solution really is this powerful idea called knowledge construction. Now, this isn't just some fancy new word for learning. It's the active process of building understanding. It's about making that shift from being a passive sponge, just soaking up information, to being an active builder who generates new ideas. Honestly, it's the engine that drives critical thinking. So how does this actually work? Well, it happens through 4 key activities. First, learners have to interpret information, look past the surface level. Then they analyze it, breaking it down to see how all the pieces fit together. After that, they synthesize. This is where they weave different ideas together to create something totally new. And finally, they evaluate, making judgments about the quality and credibility of what they found. Let me give you a really simple example of the difference. Reproducing knowledge? That's basically a book report. You're just describing what you found in your sources. But constructing knowledge? That's when you're comparing and contrasting those sources to create a whole new perspective. It's that huge leap from being a simple reporter to becoming a true analyst. Okay, so we get the why behind all this, but how do we actually make it happen in our classrooms? Let's dive into a framework that any of us can start using like tomorrow. And this is the heart of it all, a 5-level rubric. The easiest way to think about it is like a ladder. Down at level 1, students are just repeating information. By the time they get to level 3, the main goal of the assignment is knowledge construction. At level 4, they have to apply that knowledge to a whole new situation. And at level 5, the very top, they're connecting ideas across completely different subjects. And look, here's the first step for all of us. The single most important goal is to design activities that push students up and away from level 1. If a student can complete a task by just copy-pasting or repeating facts, we've got to redesign it to demand more from them. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we design lessons that actually climb this ladder? Well, the framework gives us a super simple tool to help guide our thinking. This is it, the decision tree. It's basically a checklist of 4 simple questions that line up perfectly with the rubric's levels. Does the activity even require knowledge construction? Is it the main requirement? Do students have to apply it somewhere new? And is it interdisciplinary? This is your go-to guide for creating really powerful learning experiences. All right, let's zoom in a little closer on the rubric itself, because I know terms like main requirement or new context can feel a little vague. So let's make them super concrete with some really clear examples. Let's tackle that first one. When we say that knowledge construction has to be the main requirement to get to level 3 on the rubric, what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon in the classroom? It really boils down to 2 things: time and grades. Think about it. If learners spend 35 minutes just listing facts and only 10 minutes thinking about what they mean, it's not the main requirement. Same goes for grades. If 70% of the grade is for finding info and only 30% is for analyzing it, then no, it's not the main requirement. The goal is to flip that balance so most of the time and most of the grade is focused on the heavy lifting of thinking and analysis. Okay, next up, level 4. This is all about applying knowledge in a new context. This is another one that can be a little tricky. how do we know if a context is really new or if it's just, more of the same?
Here's a great way to tell the difference. Let's say your students analyze demographic stats for your town, and then you have them do the exact same analysis for the next town over. That's not a new context. That's just repeating a skill. But what if they analyze those stats for your town and then use that understanding to design a new housing project? Now that is applying knowledge in a new context. You see, it's asking them to take what they've learned and use it to solve a totally different kind of problem.
So, we've got the theory, we've got the rubric, we've got the decision tree. Now, how do we actually bring all this to life in our day-to-day teaching? Let's talk about the tools, and maybe more importantly, the mindset we need to make this happen.
The good news is, you've got some amazing tools that can help. In Microsoft Edge, for example, the Collections feature is fantastic for organizing research. Microsoft Teams can become a digital home base for all your class resources. OneNote class notebooks are incredible for sharing templates and marking up student work. And hey, even simple things like SmartArt in Word or PowerPoint can help students visualize their thinking.
When you really step back and look at it, this whole framework is about a huge shift in our role as educators. We move away from being the sage on the stage who just delivers content, and we become more of a guide on the side, a co-constructor of knowledge working right alongside our students as they explore and create.
So there you have it. You've got the rubric, you've got the decision tree, and you've got the digital tools. You have everything you need in your toolkit to really start designing for much, much deeper learning. Look, this isn't just interesting theory, it's a real call to action. So the last question I have isn't for me, it's for you. Take a look at your lesson plans for next week. Which activity, which project, which lesson are you going to redesign first to push your students beyond just repeating facts and toward becoming true constructors of knowledge?